Hello there, what is going on, everyone? We are talking about full-scale war for Star Wars Legion. This game is about to get crazy. We've had a little bit of time to break it down, to talk about it a little bit. I talked about the rules in a recent video. I'll put a link to that at the end of the video. You can check that out. I want to go over list building and some of the really interesting points of it and some of the crazy combinations, because I feel like our games of Legion are about to get very, very wild, bordering on insanity in some cases. However, these are also kind of beta test rules. They definitely could change. And I guess that's the point of this video, is to really examine some of the corner cases and kind of ask you, do you think that maybe, based on what we know now, which admittedly is very little, do you think that maybe there should be some additional restrictions on list building? Because as of right now, there are very few. We'll talk about some of those, and I'll show you some corner cases in this video. Also, a little bit of admin stuff. Again, if you are heading to Adepticon, you're playing Legion, you're going to get pickup games in, league games in, tournament games in, world championship games in, or even what I'm going to be doing is the playtest of the full-scale war, initial kind of unveiling to the world. You're going to need to transport your stuff, and you're going to need to transport it safely. You can use Battle Foam to do that, and if you want to use code Crabbok VIP while you're there, you're going to save 15%. Also, we're starting a new round of the giveaway for a $25 Amazon gift card, which you can put towards a gaming expansion of your choice. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my other videos. It's as simple as that. This one is going to run, we'll announce this one in February, so you have a pretty good amount of time to enter to win this one. So that's how that one's going to go. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this video. I want to talk about list building a little bit more with this, because there are certain things that, while we talked about the basic rules, we don't know that much of the basic rules. There's a lot that's assumed. But what we do have in the Adepticon, basically the PDF that was revealed for this, is that we have some rules that we have to follow. Basically, your units are going to be in divisions, and your divisions are going to get the order tokens, not the individual units. There's a list of cards that they don't want you to bring, usually cards that assign an order to an individual unit, like things like HQ uplink and stuff like that. That they say don't use those. Currently, they're saying don't use mercenaries. Stick with the 4 factions. We don't know if that's permanent or if that's just for purposes of playtesting right now. But what we do have is, for the command division, which you have to have at least one of those, it's going to require a commander, at least 2 units total to make up this division, which means you got to have at least one commander, at least one of something else. But you can have 0 to 2 core units and 0 to 1 special forces. So one example of that is you could have a commander and a single special forces. That meets the requirement of having two units in the division, and you're good. You might want more than that, because non-commanders are going to gain Guardian for commander, so you might want to max out your number of units. You might want small units there. That's kind of one of my things, is if you're running like a single commander, is that you might want to protect them a little bit better, and you may want, because you can have 4 units there. You can have a commander, you can max out at 2 core and max out at 1 special forces. That would effectively give you Guardian 3 and provide just a meat shield for your commander. That seems like it's decent. The infantry division, you have to have 2 of. It has a different schema for building it. You have to have at least 3 units in here, 2 of which must be core. Maximum of 4 core in here. And in addition to that, you must have at least 1 non-core that meets the criteria of being a heavy, a support, or special forces. One of those, and only one of those. So you cannot have 2 special forces in there. You can have only 1. You can't have a heavy and a support. You can only have 1 of those. But at least 2 core. Which means the minimum, the bare bones here, is going to be something like 2 infantry and a cheap support. But you can be a little bit more well-rounded. Maybe you want to run 3 infantry and a heavy, or something like that. And it's unclear exactly what's going to be best. But you have to have 2 infantry divisions. So at a minimum, you're kind of looking at like 1 commander, 1 core, completing a command division, and then perhaps 2 infantry divisions, each of maybe 2 infantry and 1 support or something like that. So that would be at least 5 infantry, 1 commander, and 2 supports, or something like that to get the bare bones of your list. And then for the rest of the 2,000 points, which again, if you're going bare bones for your command division and 2 infantry divisions, you're probably only looking at around 500 or 600 points in there. Maybe a little bit more because you probably want to put some upgrades. So I'd say probably around 700 points or so just for the bare bones. It gives you a lot of room to fill out because you can run more than this. There's specialist divisions that are, basically you're going to have 1 operative and a minimum of 3 things, and out of that you get to pick and choose. You can kind of build this one however you want. You can have up to 2 core, up to 2 special forces, and up to 2 supports. So you have a lot of options in there. One thing that's not clear that I'm curious about is things like the Inquisitors that ignore rank requirements. I would imagine you can still fit things in there if they have some special rules, but I'm not sure. So for right now, until we have clarification on that, I'm not messing around with that particular mechanic, or I'm not depending on it. And then the heavy armor division, which is my personal favorite. You have to have at least 2, but it's only heavies, and you can run 2 or 3. So it's either 2 heavies or 3 heavies. The other thing that you need to know about these is they all have to be the same, at least as it applies to upgrades that aren't unique. So if you are running 3 ATSTs and one of them is General Vice and the other one is, the other 2 are the Hammers pilot, then you're fine. Because normally they'd have to be all 3 Hammers pilots if you're running pilots, but unique upgrades don't have to follow that rule, but everybody else does. So if you got generic upgrades, you're going to have to follow that. So that's basically the rules in a nutshell. Now, I've already talked about this, but where I want to go from this is the fact that there are not any caps on how many of these divisions that you can fit, which means you can run a command division, your 2 infantry divisions, and then be like, oh, I want more command divisions. You might run 5 command divisions. You might run 10 command divisions if you can fit it within the 2,000 points. And there are some cheap commanders there, especially with the customizable officers that just recently came out. There's some definitely affordable commanders. Is it going to be a good idea to do those? Are your command cards going to, is basically the command card system going to change very much in this format? And would it benefit you to have 10 commanders? I don't think so. But it could be fun, especially if you're running stuff like, Darth Vader and stuff. You're not going to be able to run 10 command divisions if you're running expensive commanders. But, if you're running cheap, kind of bare bones requirements, you can certainly do a ridiculous amount of divisions. Is it going to be beneficial to have a higher count of divisions? If it's like old school Legion, it was back and forth, a higher activation count might mean that you get the last 3 back to back to back. Not sure exactly how that's going to go either. If they're going to let people pass and do things like that. The other thing that's interesting is the heavy armor division. You can fit quite a bit of heavy armor. Normally, in games of Legion, you can only have 2 heavies. There are battle forces that allow you to have 3, but that is rare, and that is also relatively new. For the most part, it's been 2 heavies. There's some really insane things that you can come up with this. So I want to just show you guys like a little theory crafting that I was doing. So working on some fundamentals of kind of just doing the bare minimum with my 1 command division and 2 infantry divisions. That kind of puts me at an Imperial officer. Again, you got to have at least 1 doctrine on him, and then at least 1 infantry with him, or I put 1 infantry with him and then 2 other infantry. I have to have 2 more supports in here or so, but this is I forgot they didn't make the cutoff in this one, but again, for an example, you could have 11 ATSTs. Yes, I'd also have to have the 2 E-webs in here, which I forgot to include in the graphic, but this like 11 ATSTs, a little bit crazy. A little bit. Let me know your thoughts. And now, granted, this doesn't leave a whole lot of room for upgrades. And of course, you probably want something else on those ATSTs. So maybe it's not feasible to really run 11 ATSTs. But that's just such a... Even if you drop it down to 10, you might be saying, wait a second, if I'm running 2 per division, how do you get 11? Because you can run 3, right? So figure 5 divisions, 4 of them have 2, the 5th one has 3, something like that. And that's kind of the idea that I was doing with that. And this is just the start, right? There's other crazy things. So, like, we have, for example, if we wanted to run Separatists, 9 AAT battle tanks, you know, like, that's also pretty wild. You know, you can do a lot here. And if I'm right and Gungans do come out, I really see some possibilities for some very thematic Battle of Naboo type shenanigans here. I think realistically, I don't think you'd really go with 9 AATs, but I could see people going with something like 5 or 6. I think 6 is reasonable for a thematic look. You'd fill the board up with B1s, Staff Riders, and AATs. It would be beautiful. That would be very, very beautiful. I would love to see that, and there'd be a whole lot of fun there. Maybe we'd even drop a specialist division in there with Darth Maul, the Separatist Darth Maul going in and participating in the Battle of Naboo. You can do all these things now, so it's pretty cool. But you can take it to extremes. The biggest extreme that I could come up with at this point was B1s, right? 248 B1s. If we were doing something like this, it's just one example. I think somebody came out with a way to get more than 250, but this is what I came up with. Using the Spider Droid is probably one of the cheaper options. We can. I have 18. So this is 9 infantry divisions of B1 battle droids, each with the squad. It's a little bit crazy. And then the one B1 battle droid with the T-Series for the command division. You can do some crazy stuff. Now, I don't think that these are going to be realistic use cases. I don't imagine anyone out there really has the time or inclination to paint a whopping 248 B1 battle droids, even though, granted, they're not the most difficult to at least get them table ready, right? You know, you prime them in like a tan or a very kind of light eggshell, put some kind of yellowish brown contrast paint on there, you're almost done. You know, there's not a whole lot that you really have to do with these guys. But still, a lot of us like to take it a little further and add appropriate level of details and some metal shining in the bits, and then yellow for the eyes, and then maybe a dab of like red or brown or something for whatever kind of unit they're in, and so on and so forth. Paint the weapons black, and do those extra things that really make the unit pop. So that's a lot of painting. I think what we're going to see is things that are closer to the extra heavies. And I'm working on list ideas right now, but I think extra heavies are going to be popular for a number of reasons. For one, it means that you don't have to have one model versus the 40 models that it kind of takes the space of. As far as points are concerned, it means that you're going to be able to get your army on the table. It's not going to take you 2 hours to get set up. It's not going to take you 8 hours to play your game, so on and so forth. They kind of speed up the gameplay a little bit when you have a lot of your points consolidated into a single division or a single activation. And I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be something that people will probably do, I think, a large amount. I think most, if not all, of the builds we see as this becomes an official format are going to include at least one heavy division, if not 2. That's my prediction based on what I've been looking at so far. And I'll do a follow-up video when I finalize the list that I'm going to be bringing to Adepticon to playtest with, and I'll talk about why I'm come up with the stuff that I've come up with for that one. But I do expect it to be a lot more ATSTs, but not just because they're kind of efficient as far as time and activations and stuff like that, and setup and teardown, but also because of the fact that you can never do this before. You can always have a lot of infantry on the table. That's not all that new. Granted, yes, you're having even more, but you could never get 12 ATSTs. You could never do it. As a matter of fact, that would probably be the only barrier towards doing it right away, or 11 ATSTs, I should say, is that nobody has that many. I say that, but I'm sure at least 2 people in the comments are going to be like, well, actually, I have that many, or my buddy has that many. You know, and so maybe people will be borrowing ATSTs for a little while or whatever. I don't know if there's going to be people like, if there's going to be a surge on heavy units, saber tanks, lats. For example, I think lats might be very popular right now considering they work in multiple factions. So now all of a sudden you have even more incentive to pick up lats, although they weren't the easiest things to put together. So I will say that. But yeah, like some of the heavies are a little harder to put together than others, but I think there's going to be, for those of you who have multiples of these, this is going to be a really fun time. I also hope that this has ways for battle forces to use them, because yes, I talked a lot about B1s. I really am not looking forward to facing, 250 Ewoks across the table. Don't know if I want to see that. Not without like area of effect weapons that just decimate everything like in a 12-inch circle. I don't know. That could be really interesting. So those are some of the extreme cases of things that you might see in full-scale war. Again, this is all based on beta, early rules that are just to get people in there, get them testing. What I bring to Adepticon will not be an edge case or an extreme case, because I feel like I want to get the most out of the experience, and to do that I have to have a little bit more of a well-rounded list. Doesn't mean I might not try to do something powerful or strong or fun or whatever, but I'm probably not going to go to that quite that extreme. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know some of your thoughts. What are some more extreme things that you think might happen, things that you'd love to do, or also things that you're afraid your opponents might do for full-scale war for Star Wars Legion. I will talk to you later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always wash your socks.